Roy really didn't agree with this take, but I think Zac Taylor, out of John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski, was truly the best head coach of the four there, and there's a reason he's still the head coach. There's a reason he's still there, not canned. It's because he has the most talent out of those coaches right there, especially in the modern-day NFL. He is most equipped to be a modern-day NFL coach. What do you think about that, Ray?
Okay, look, off the rip. Hypothetically speaking, shout out Jalen Hurts. Hypothetically speaking, Zac Taylor is the best coach in the AFC North. But guess what, buddy? Guess what? If all the coaches stayed in their position, like you said, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, and who was the other one?
Kevin
Stefanski. If all those coaches were in place right now, we count all of them, in my opinion, no bias, Mike Tomlin is the best coach in the AFC North. Obviously, he did step down, but guess what? Brandon, don't be laughing over there, Brandon. Guess what? I think he's the best coach because, not only did he win a ring like Harbaugh, not only did he make the playoffs a lot of times, a lot of dubs in the regular season, Harbaugh, I feel like that's basically the very, you're over here saying Zac Taylor is the best. It's kind of crazy to say. But he had a winning season 19 seasons in a row. I know it's hard to believe as a Ravens fan.
Oh, I believe it.
You believe that?
Well, I believe that he won 19 seasons in a row. Yes, I do know that. That is facts.
Do you believe that? Can you believe that?
I can believe he won 19 seasons in a row. The facts are there, but the fact that you think he's the best head coach out of that bunch.
A chip, 19 winning seasons in a row, and lots of respect as a coach. He's a player's coach. I feel like lots of players, I know you want to bring it up. Actually, we don't bring it up right here. Steelers players crying, shedding tears, bawling their eyes out at Mike Tomlin stepping down. Players love this coach. I think he is the best coach in the AFC North. I think you saying Zac Taylor is the best is all because of recency bias. Yes, he was the most recent to make the Super Bowl. That's it. That's my opinion. That's all. He has a crazy cast. He has Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool. He has Jamar Chase, insane wide receiver. In my opinion, the best wide receiver in the league. He has, all right defense. Sack leader Trey Hendrickson, very respectable player, all-star. I think their supporting cast truly is what makes Zac Taylor, I guess, what you're in your opinion, the best coach in the AFC North. My take is Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin is not only the head coach for a reason. I have it pulled up here. The last time the Steelers won a championship was in 2009. In 2009, what were we? 6 years old? About 6 years, about 5 years old. It's been quite a while. It's been since 2009. That's about 17 years ago. 17 years ago. 2009. He said he has 19 winning seasons. So he's had 15 straight winning seasons with no Super Bowl. That's not that great at the end of the day.
Zac Taylor didn't have to run into Brady.
Look, okay, you use Brady. We have Mahomes over here, and he got past Mahomes. He's one of the only coaches to coach his team past Mahomes. Past Mahomes. True. There's not many teams out there that have gone past Mahomes in the playoffs. I don't think there's dang near any except for Tom Brady and Joe Burrow that have gone past Mahomes when he's in there.
So you're saying Zac Taylor let the Bengals past Mahomes? That's what you're saying.
Yes,
so you're saying it was the coach who let the Bengals past Mahomes and the Chiefs?
As a team, obviously. As a team, all together, they made it to a Super Bowl.
Yes.
But who is the leader of that team? Zac Taylor.
No. We're not going to sit here and say that Zac Taylor is the leader of the Bengals, fam. We're going to say Joe Burrow, the captain of the team, the person who leads it, MVP talks, Joe Shiesty, Joe Cole, y'all know him, is the head of the team. He is the head of the team. He brought them past Mahomes. That's why he is in the talks of best QB. They're not saying Zac Taylor is the best head coach. They're saying Joe Burrow is in the talks of top QBs because he did this against Mahomes. I don't think Andy Reid got outcoached by Zac Taylor, bro. No, I do not think that.
Look, what do you think Zac Taylor does all day? Sit on his butt, on his thumb, all day?
No, of course.
He's the head coach of a football team that made it to the Super Bowl more recently than, obviously, the Browns because they've never made it.
Right.
More recently than the 2009 Steelers. More recently than my own 2012 Baltimore Ravens. And you know what? Look, he's the only one that had success in the past 10 years from any of those head coaches.
So you're saying recency bias?
I'm not saying recency bias, but I'm saying it's a different age than the NFL. The NFL is not the same in 2026 than it was in 2009 when the Steelers won it. In 2012 when the Ravens won it. It's a different league, and you need an offensive-minded head coach. Obviously, the ones that we mentioned that are no longer there are defensive-minded head coaches. Zac Taylor's an offensive mind. His offense shines, obviously. I don't think if we had another head coach there, they would get the same result they did in that year when they made the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, I don't think Joe Burrow is that good. I really don't. I don't think Joe Burrow is that good. I think he's been blessed to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on both sides with plenty of weapons on offense. He has Everyone considers him part of the top four. Top four of quarterbacks of generation. We'd say Mahomes, Allen. I know you hate it, but Lamar and Joe Burrow.
Sure.
Lamar and Joe Burrow. Look, out of all those guys, he's had the best weapons by far. Jamar Chase is constantly a top 3 receiver in the league.
Yes.
He's been blessed with that. And you know what? Zac Taylor at the helm led them to that Super Bowl. He's also with one of those dysfunctional organizations in the NFL.
Right.
The Browns are in the same division as them, and they're by far probably the most dysfunctional. However, the Bengals are not that far behind. They have no Super Bowl wins. They still don't. And he led that bottom feeder team, historically a bottom feeder team in the league, to a Super Bowl. Not too far removed from having the number 1 overall pick when they had Joe Burrow. So he turned him around with Joe Burrow. Not just Joe Burrow himself. I don't think Joe Burrow can do it on his own. I don't think Joe Burrow calls up the schemes, gets the coaches together, and has a game plan. Zac Taylor led them to Super Bowl more recently than John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski. So at the end of the day, I think Zac Taylor is very underrated, in my opinion. I think he gets way too much hate.
Well, okay, look. First off, saying underrated, that's a take. That's a take for itself. I think, honestly, my personal take about this, Zac Taylor, I am surprised that you still have a job as an NFL head coach. Look, first off, I don't think you deserve this job, in my opinion. I'm not going to go around pointing fingers saying, oh, you don't deserve the job. But let's just talk about his stats. Let's talk about his previous jobs. Texas A&M graduate assistant. Okay.
That's a
Miami
start.
Dolphins. It's a start. Very start. Miami Dolphins, quarterback coach. Okay. Quarterback coach. University of Cincinnati, back to college. Another quarterback coach. Okay. / offensive coordinator. Mostly a quarterback coach. As we see here, LA Rams 2018. The Rams went to the Super Bowl that year.
They went to the Super Bowl.
Yes, they did go to it.
No,
no, I said they went.
Okay.
No, it's all good. The quarterback coach for that team. And then, right after that, 2019, gets hired as the Bengals head coach.
Look.
Do you really think he deserves that job?
Look,
Do you think he should still be hired as of right now?
Yes, he should be hired. Look, the Bengals are not one of the top teams in the league. Joe Burrow, I've said it many times. I've said it many times. Joe Burrow has been injured. The best ability is availability. I'll keep spamming that. But Joe Burrow has not been available the whole time he was there. Even when Jake Browning went in as quarterback, they had success under Jake Browning without Joe Burrow.
Success.
He has showed success without Joe Burrow, meaning it's not all just Joe Burrow. He's been able to scheme together some wins with the Bengals without Joe Burrow. So, and you just mentioned he hasn't been a coordinator. You don't have to be a coordinator. You don't have to be an OC or a DC to be a head coach. John Harbaugh, look, as much as you can hate on John Harbaugh, as much as I can hate on John Harbaugh, he was never an OC. He was never a DC. Yep. He was a special teams coordinator from Philadelphia under Andy Reid. So sometimes you don't have to be a coordinator. You know what? Sometimes coordinators are better as coordinators than head coaches. You know what? I'm a Ravens fan. I don't want us to hire Brian Flores. I don't want us to hire Robert Saleh. I think those guys should stay on one side of the ball. Some guys are meant to be head coaches. Some are better as coordinators. Steve Spagnuolo, Chiefs, perfect example. He stays as a DC. Some guys know their place. Zac Taylor is a head coach. You don't need an offensive or defensive coordinator to be your head coach. I don't care. I'm actually kind of offended that you brought up that he shouldn't be head coach because he was an OC or a DC before. You don't need that. You don't need any of that. Right. People work their way up. There's different mindsets. There's different plans. He does not need to be a coordinator to be a head coach at the end of the day. Zac Taylor is underrated. He has taken his team to the Super Bowl. Not just Joe Burrow, him, and he does not need to be an OC or a DC for that.
Okay, that is definitely true. I'm going to keep it a buck. You are right. John Harbaugh hired out of a special teams position. Respect for John Harbaugh, but I'm going to keep it a buck. That was mad lucky, bro. Just as lucky as drafting Lamar 29th overall or whatever draft.
32.
32. Exactly. Last of the first round. Just as lucky. And honestly, I truly do feel like Zac Taylor shouldn't have a job, bro. Maybe as a coordinator. Like you said, some coordinators need to stay coordinators. I think some of these coaches, quarterback coaches, need to stay quarterback coaches. I think his tenure as a Bengals head coach truly hasn't been that spectacular. Oh my gosh, yes, you made the Super Bowl, but guess what? You lost it, you get me? And do I truly think that he brought the Bengals to the Super Bowl? No, bro. No. At the end of the day, you have a hot Joe Burrow. Yes, he obviously had a whole injury the season before that, but hot as in, previously college, coming out of an insane year, national championship. He did get injured, like I said. But an insane offense, nonetheless. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Are we going to say, just as you're disrespecting Joe Burrow, oh, he has all these weapons. Oh, he has this, he has that. Are we going to say that for the same as Zac Taylor? Are we going to bring that same narrative to Zac Taylor? Oh, he has Joe Burrow. Oh, he has Jamar Chase. Oh, he has T. Higgins. He has a sack leader in Trey Henderson. They had a pretty fair defense, when they did go to the Super Bowl. Not the craziest, obviously, but, serviceable. Are we going to say, okay, look, Zac Taylor, you did enough, right? But you had this insane supporting cast, just like you're doing for Joe Burrow.
Look, Zac Taylor, I think any other year, like I said, he's one of the only head coaches to actually get past Patrick Mahomes in Patrick Mahomes' prime. In that little stretch where he went to the Super Bowl year after year, he's one of the only head coaches to get past them in his prime. Yeah, of course, he had a good supporting cast in that time. Everyone's going to have to have a good supporting cast to get to the Super Bowl.
Of course.
He didn't have a crazy defense, and he just so happened to run into the Rams, who are going all in. If the Rams did not win the Super Bowl that year that they did against the Bengals, that would have been the biggest failure of all time, getting rid of all their first-round draft picks, adding players like Jalen Ramsey, having Aaron Donald. Those are Hall of Famers. Matthew Stafford. I mean, those are Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown King. That was one of the best teams, I think, of all time, in my opinion, talent-wise, of all time to have. And you ran against them, and you almost won. With a young Joe Burrow. It was his second year in the league. With a young Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow does not do it all. And look, I'm going to go back a little bit.
He's a badass player, though.
He is.
During the time.
He's all right. He's all right. Like I said, I think he's been aided by these Jamar Chase players.
Okay.
And look, and then again, Zac Taylor does not make all the decisions. He's not the GM. He's not the owner. He does not have all the power. He has done the most he can with a cheap organization. The organization does not provide him all the assets he needs. They do not always want to bring back all the players. There's always a lot of drama behind the scenes as for his players and the money because they are a cheap organization, the Bengals are. And you know what? That's what I have to say about the Bengals. But I wanted to talk on something you said. You said Lamar Jackson was a lucky pick by the Ravens.
Yes.
No, it was not. Lamar Jackson fell to number 32. I want to say fell. You know what the Ravens did? They proactively traded back into the first round. They didn't not have the 32nd pick. The Eagles did. People forget. Eagles did with Carson Wentz before Jalen Hurts. They had the 32nd overall pick. And the Ravens actively just went back into the first round at the very end and selected Lamar Jackson. So you keep saying that the Ravens got lucky by getting Lamar Jackson. No, they did not. They proactively went out. They had a quarterback they wanted that was about to slip to the second round. They didn't want him to slip, so they went back into the draft and they got him. So I just want to clear that up. It was not lucky at all. They actively went into that with the trade to get Lamar Jackson themselves. So it's not like it just fell to him like, oh, cool, Lamar Jackson. Everyone passed on him.
Technically,
they passed on him too. Technically, and they went back in.
Okay, look, I'm let me clear things up myself. I personally think, when I said that Lamar Jackson falling to the Ravens was luck, what I meant was these other teams sold by not picking up Lamar Jackson.
Like the Steelers.
A Heisman, sure, call it what you want. I respect Lamar. MVP player, multiple-time MVP player. 2-time, right?
2-time. Should have been 3.
Yes, he did sell in the playoffs. He's not clutch. Do I think he's ever going to win a ring? No. But I think that teams did sell. Ravens did get lucky in that sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? In that sense. And honestly, that's all I have to say about that. I could definitely agree with you, though. The Bengals organization is definitely fraudulent, selling their players just like Joe Burrow, selling players, playing players just like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Trey Anderson. I don't even think. Is he playing for the Bengals right now?
I don't even know.
I don't even know if he's playing.
They're a poverty franchise.
They're a poverty franchise. They play the prong players, and honestly, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to really build a supporting cast with the defensive unit as well to make the Super Bowl run again. I think the window is closed, but I think Zac Taylor truly doesn't deserve this job. Honestly, that's all I have to say about that, but I'm definitely disagreeing with him being the best coach in the AFC North. No doubt about that.
He is definitely the best head coach in the AFC North. I'm going to finish it out on this. Like I said, in the past, what is it now? About 14 years, he's the only head coach in that conference, in that division, to make a Super Bowl. It's hard to do that.
It's hard.
He adapted with the times. He's perfect with the times. Tomlin was not. Harbaugh is not.
He got lucky, bro. He got lucky just like the Ravens got lucky with getting the Lamar Jackson.
Okay, you want to talk about the Ravens drafting Lamar Jackson. Let's talk about the Steelers, because I have my next point up here. I have the Steelers overpaid for T.J. Watt. And that is a big point I think that everyone's been talking about. Even Steelers people in the comment sections have been saying we overpaid for T.J. Watt.